Begin today at the Mishnah on Daf Chavdal Amud Beis. This Mishnah is a continuation explaining the halachas of the shoyer that's mazik. These Mishnayos of this Perek are all a continuation of the different details about a shoyer that is mazik that was mentioned in the first Perek in a Mishnah on Daf Tezvav Amud Beis, where it spoke about the details. And here in this Perek it explains each Mishnah, one of the details mentioned there. Zok Teilige Mishnah, shoyer hamazik b'rishus hanizik. A shoyer that is mazik, but the hezik, the damage is taking place in the property of the nizik. Keitzad. So what's the halacha here? This was mentioned earlier. What is the damage that happens, and what's the halacha? What do you pay for this? It says the Mishnah, nogach, if it gored, nogaf, if it pushed with its body in a wild way, similar to when it gores, or noshach, it bit, also wildly, rovatz, it lay down, boat, it kicked. If all this happened in Rishus Rabim, then Mishalem Chatzi Nezek. So then the first 3 times you pay half a pay. This is an animal that's wild, and the first 3 times it's a tam. Rishus HaNizik, if this takes place in the property of the Nizik, so here there's a machlekes. Rab Tarfon says that then it's different. Then you pay Nezek Shalom, you pay full pay. Chachamim say no, the halacha remains the same, only Chatzi Nezek. You still only pay half pay. So Rab Tarfon says to the Chachamim, here there's the following Kal V'Chomer to prove that in the Rishus of the Nizik you pay Nezek Shalom. If when it comes to a place where the Torah is lenient regarding the pay for shein and regel, when the animal eats regularly or just steps and tramples regularly, that's in the Rishus Rabim. So over there the Torah was lenient about this. Shuhu Pater. And over there you're potter for paying for any of that. But nevertheless, hechmer aleyem b'rishus hanizik. When it comes to the property of the nizik, here the Torah is stringent regarding shein v'regel l'shalem nezek shalem, that you have to pay full pay for this kind of damage. Now, if so, mokim shehechmer ala kerem b'rishus harabim l'shalem chatzi nezek. If it comes to a place where the Torah is stringent, and that's regarding the keren in the Rishus Harabim, when an animal gores with its horns in the Rishus Harabim, so it has to pay over there Chatzi Nezek. So we see that when it comes to keren, the Torah is more stringent than Shein V'Regel, which is totally potter in the Rishus Harabim. So Ein Edin, most definitely, Shenachmir Olav Rishus HaNizik, that we should be more stringent with the keren in the Rishus of the Nizik, that L'Shalem Nezek Shalem, that it should pay full pay. If Shein V'Regel pays full pay in Rishus HaNizik, even though it's totally potter in the Rishus Harabim, keren, which pays at least half in the Rishus Harabim, for sure we should be more stringent that it should pay Nezek Shalom in the Rishus Harabim. Now, according to this version of the Kal V'Chomer, it basically comes out that we're learning the halacha of the payment of keren in the Rishus HaNizik from the stringency that it has in the Rishus Harabim, that there it pays half, more than Shein V'Regel, which is totally potter. So on this, Amrullah, the Chachamim said to Rab Tarfon, you can't learn that you should pay full pay for keren in the Rishus HaNizik. Why? Dayay l'ba min adin liya is kinidin. We have a rule. Anytime you learn a Kal V'Chomer, you can't learn a halacha that's more stringent than the source from where you're learning it from. So over here, you're learning it from the fact that keren has the stringency that it pays in the Rishus Harabim. So if so, ma b'rishus harabim chatzi nezek. If you're learning it from there, so just like the keren, when it damages in the rishus harabim, it only pays half. Af b'rishus hanizik chatzi nezek. So if you're learning for the payment in the rishus hanizik, so then it should be also the same thing. You can't learn to pay more than half chatzi nezek. So how are you learning out from this Kal V'Chomer, from the stringency of keren in the rishus harabim, and applying it back to keren in a private property that you pay more, that you pay full pay? Okay, so Rab Tarfon, when he heard this question, so he changed a little bit the version of this Kal V'Chomer. We're not really exactly learning out directly keren in the Rishus HaNizik from keren in the Rishus Harabim. Rather, the Kal V'Chomer, it's the same details, but the Kal V'Chomer is a little bit restructured. Amar lahem, so Rab Tarfon says to the Chachamim, I'll tell you the Kal V'Chomer as follows. Afani loy odin keren mi keren. Okay, so I'm not going to learn out the Kal V'Chomer to learn keren the Rishus HaNizik from keren the Rishus Harabim. We'll learn it a little different. Ani odon, I'm going to learn out this Kal V'Chomer keren mi regel, the payment of keren in the Rishus of the Nizik from the payment of regel, when the behemoth just tramples with his feet in the Rishus HaNizik. And I'll tell you as follows. Uma b'mokim shehokel ala shein v'ala regel. If when it comes to a place where the Torah is lenient with shein and regel, but Rishus Harabim, when it damages in the Rishus Harabim, so there you're totally potter. But still, hechmer bekeren. So over there in the Rishus Harabim, it is still stringent with keren that you have to pay full pay. You have to pay a chatzin nezek. That is makaim shehechmer al hashem v'al regel b'Rishus hanizik. So when it comes over here into the private property of the nizik, where the Torah is stringent regarding shein v'regel, that you have to pay for this. Ein edin shenachmer bekeren. Most definitely, you have to be machmer when it comes to keren. So over here, in this Kal V'chomer, what we're learning out is, we're saying that if the Torah is being stringent with shein v'regel to pay in the Rishus HaNizik, for sure the Torah would be stringent with keren to pay in the Rishus HaNizik. So what the basis of the Kal V'chomer is, because we see that there's a leniency that shein v'regel has, that keren does not have, and that is in the Rishus HaRabim. So from that leniency, we could learn out that over here, when it comes to the Rishus HaNizik, if the Torah is stringent with shein v'regel, that you pay full pay, for sure you should be stringent with keren, that you pay full pay. So now in this version of the Kal V'chomer, it comes out that we're learning out keren from shein v'regel. That if shein v'regel pays full pay by Rishus HaNizik, keren should pay full pay by Rishus HaNizik. So over here, you can't say the same question of dayoi that it asked before. But nevertheless, the Gemara says the Chachamim still asked the same question. Amrulai, the Chachamim said to Rab Tarfin, Dayai leba min adin liyas kenidin. You could still ask this question of Dayai, which is that you can't learn out in a Kal V'chomer more than the halacha, this source from where you're learning it from. Ma b'Rishus Harabim chatzi nizik. If keren the Rishus Harabim, the entire stringency of keren the Rishus Harabim is that it pays only half. Af b'Rishus HaNizik chatzi nezek. So in the Rishus HaNizik, it should also pay only the same chatzi nezek. So the reason why the Chachamim are asking this question of Dai over here is, even though the limud is really from keren, you're learning keren from shein v'regel, but nevertheless, this whole Kal V'chomer is only possible because you find a stringency in keren more than shein v'regel. We're in the Rishus Harabim. So you have to have that element to this Kal V'chomer to point out that keren is more stringent than shein v'regel. So that element of stringency that keren has more than shein v'regel is only chatzi nizik, that it pays half. So therefore, if you're using that stringency for this Kal V'chomer, you can't come to a conclusion that when the animal gores and is mazik in the Rishus HaNizik, it should pay more than half, that it should pay nazik shalim. So therefore, this is the machlokes between the Chachamim and Rab Tarfin. Chachamim say that when you have a Kal V'chomer, you apply this rule of dayai, that you can't learn out more than what the source has. And Rab Tarfin seems to be saying there's no such a thing as dayai. We don't apply this concept of dayai, and therefore you could learn from a Kal V'chomer even more than the source itself has. Okay, so the whole next block we're going to be learning today, this is the sugya of dayai. We're not going to be learning anything about anything related to Masechta Bava Kama, but it's going to bring the source of this concept of dayai and then seeing how it applies in other scenarios. Talk to Gemara. Dayai means enough. You could only learn out what the source has, not more from the source. It's enough to learn from what the source has and not to learn out even more than that. It's a simple translation. Says the Gemara, Rab Tarfin, Lesle Dayai, could it be that Rab Tarfin does not hold of this rule of Dayai? V'hadayai da'iraisuhu. But this concept of Dayai, though, is learned from a pasuk in the Chumash. The Tanya, it says in the Braisa as follows. Midin Kal V'chomer Keitzad. Where is the source of the idea that you can learn a Kal V'chomer? This is a Braisa that brings all the Yud Gimel Midas, Shatayr and Nedrash Spen, that we say every morning, and one of them is Kal V'chomer, first one. So over there it says, where do we see Kal V'chomer in the Torah? Because the pasuk says when Miriam, after she spoke Lashon Hara and Moshe Rabbeinu, and Miriam became a mitzaras, so then Moshe Rabbeinu davened that Miriam should be healed. And the Eibishter says, Vayema Hashem al Moshe, Vavia Yarek Yarek B'faneo, if her father would spit at her, what would happen? Halay Tikolim Shivas Yomim. She would be embarrassed by this for 7 days. And therefore, Kal V'chomer, L'shchina, most definitely, that if she came and spoke something that she's going to be embarrassed now by the Shchina, that the Eibishter is punishing her, so most definitely that she would be embarrassed by the Shchina, and this embarrassment should last double. Shchina is much greater than just a father, so this embarrassment should last for 14 days. So really, when she became a mitzeras, she should have to have this punishment for 14 days. But why was she not? What happened over there with Miriam? She was not a mitzeras for 14 days, only for 7 days. Elo daya laba min adin liyas kinidin. So over here we apply the rule of daya to say that if you're learning out that this punishment that she got, she should be embarrassed for this. You're learning it from a father that spits, and over there it's 7 days. So even though the shechina is much more, but you can't learn out more than the source, and therefore over here she only had the nega, she was a mitzeras only for 7 days. That's the pasuk. So you clearly see over here this concept of dayai in the source of Kal V'chomer in the Torah. So Reb Tarfon definitely holds of this rule of dayai. Says the Gemara, ki lesle dayai, when does Reb Tarfon not hold of the rule of dayai? Heiche the mifrach Kal V'chomer. In a case that if you'll apply the rule of dayai, it's going to refute the whole entire Kal V'chomer. Kal V'chomer is a concept of Torah. It's one of the modes of Torah, how it teaches us halachas, as we see here in this pasuk, and it's Yav Kal V'chomer all the time. But there's also the rule of dayai. Says Rav Tarfon, usually we don't apply the concept of dayai, because if you're going to apply dayai, so then the whole Kal V'chomer will fall apart. The only time you apply dayai is if it does not refute the Kal V'chomer. Again, ki lesle dayai heiche de mifrach Kal V'chomer. When does Rav Tarfon not all of the concept of dayai? If the Kal V'chomer will get refuted. But heiche de le mifrach Kal V'chomer, if when you apply dayai and you're only going to learn out what the source has and not more, and the Kal V'chomer will not be refuted, so then over here you say dayai. So he explains regarding the source of where dayai says in the pasuk, Hasam shiva de shchine loiksivi. Over there, in this case, regarding the punishment of Miriam, it doesn't even say, we don't even know bichlal, that for those 7 days she's going to be punished by the shchine. Asa Kal V'chomer. So what's the point of the Kal V'chomer that the Eibishter is saying that you learn from the embarrassment from a father? And I see Arba'asa. It comes to say that she's being punished by the shchine, and therefore that Kal V'chomer says that most definitely she should get punished, and even more. She should get punished double to be 14 days of mitzeras. That's the Kal V'chomer. So over here, Asa Daya. Over here I apply the concept of Daya, which says you can't learn out more than what the source has. Apik Shiva, Vaiki Shiva. So it takes out 7 of the days, and it says that she's only going to be punished for 7 days. So that's over there. In the pasuk, when you apply dayai, so it doesn't refute the point of the whole Kal V'chomer. You still are using the Kal V'chomer to learn out for her punishment of 7 days. But over here, the Kal V'chomer that we're learning out, Keren in the Rishus HaNizik, so we're learning it out from Keren in the Rishus HaRabim. Chatzi Nezek Ksiv. The fact that if a keren, the animal damages with its horns, so for that you pay chatzi nezek, that's clear in the pasuk. You don't need any Kal V'chomer for this. V'hasa Kal V'chomer, the whole Kal V'chomer is coming to say, v'aisi chatzi nezek achrina. It's coming to say that when this damage happens in the Rishus HaNizik, so we see that over here the Torah is more stringent, that over here you have to add another half and you pay in v'nasa nezek shalim, and therefore you pay full pay. That's what the whole Kal V'chomer is here for. Idarshes dayai. So if you're going to apply the concept of dayai here, after Kal V'chomer, it's going to refute the entire Kal V'chomer. So therefore, in this case, Rav Tarfon's opinion is we don't apply dayai when there's a Kal V'chomer, and there's nothing to learn from the Kal V'chomer if you have the concept of dayai. Now, but Rabbanon, what did the Rabbanon respond to this? So Rav Tarfon's right. You see there in the source of where you learn dayai in the pasuk, you only apply dayai in a case where there's something else you could learn out from the Kal V'chomer. But the Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan say shiva de shchina ksivi. The fact that Miriam will be punished for 7 days by the shchina, that you don't need the Kal V'chomer therefore to learn out from a father embarrassing. That the pasuk clearly says tisager shivas yamim, that she's going to be locked up for 7 days because she was a mitzeras. So therefore, the Kal V'chomer is coming to say that she have to be locked up 14 days, an additional 7 days. And still, we apply dayai and say that we refute the entire Kal V'chomer. So the Rabbanan say, no, we do apply dayai there to refute the whole Kal V'chomer. But Rav Tarfon though disagrees and says, no, hahu tisager. When the Torah says that Miriam is locked up only for 7 days, that is because the dashin and dayahu. That's what the pasuk there is coming to teach you is you have the Kal V'chomer, and the Kal V'chomer would say that she should have to be locked up for 14 days. double than a father that embarrasses. And then it says, no, but nevertheless, Tisaga Shivas Yamim, she should only be locked up 7 days. This pasuk is actually the source that tells you the concept of daya. That even though the pasuk itself just said a kavachaymer, but nevertheless, we don't go so far to say more than what the source is. And therefore it's only 7 days. So this is the source of daya. But other than this pasuk, Tisaga Shivas Yamim, we would never know that she should have to be locked up for 7 days. The source is this kavachaymer. The Rabbanan argue back and say there's actually twice that the pasuk there says that she's locked up for 7 days. Ksiv kra achrina. There's another pasuk there that says Vatisage Miriam. Pasuk there says that when Miriam was locked up mechutz lamachne shivas yama for 7 days. So it says it twice. One time it's telling you to say that even before the kavachaymer, that we know that she has to be locked up for 7 days. And then afterwards, the second time it's saying it to apply the concept of daya, that it remains only 7 days and we don't take it to 14 days like the kavachaymer would suggest. So Adarab, according to the Chachamim, you see that you say daya even in a case where it refutes the entire kavachaymer, because even without the kavachaymer, I already know that she has to be locked up for 7 days. But Rav Tarfon disagrees and says, even though the Torah says twice that she has to be locked up for 7 days, when it says it a second time, what it's saying is that what it's coming to say is that this is the source for the concept of daya for kavachaymer, and that this concept of daya is applied not only over here regarding Miriam, but it's applied everywhere else for any other kavachaymer. And and you shouldn't say that maybe the only reason why over here we applied daya to a kavachaymer is because of the honor of Moshe. Moshe was the one that was davening for his sister Miriam that she should be healed, and the Eibishter says, well, really she deserves to be a mitziras for 14 days. Elamai, the Eibishter says, in your honor, Moshe Rabbeinu's honor, will allow her to be locked up just for 7 days. So maybe we apply this daya to say it's enough 7 days, only in the honor of Moshe. Maybe another place we wouldn't say this, and everywhere else we would not apply daya. Kamash Malan, therefore you need twice the pasuk to say this concept of daya applies here 7 days, and it says again 7 days to know that we apply the same rule everywhere else. Okay, but what's the bottom line that comes out from all of this? Everybody agrees to the concept of daya for a kavachaymer. The only argument is whether you apply it in a case where the kavachaymer gets refuted, or you apply it in a case only when the kavachaymer does not get refuted. That's the machlekes here. But now the Gemara is going to ask from other cases. But Rav Papa asks Abaye, hi Tana, here we could see this Tana, Deloi Darish Daya. He does not hold of this concept of daya. Va'afal gav deloi mifrach kavachaymer. Even in a case where the kavachaymer will not be refuted by applying the daya, it doesn't matter. He does not apply daya. You can learn from a kavachaymer even more than the source. Doesn't hold of daya at all. Why is this? So the Gemara brings as follows. The Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, keri bezav minayin. From where do we know the tumah that there is by the emission of a keri when this person is already a zav? Okay, so what this Gemara is talking about is there are two types of emissions that can come out of the body of a person. One is called a keri, and the other is called a zav. They're not exactly the same kind of emission. Asher here brings from the Gemara of Nida that describes the difference between them. So the question over here is a zav, a person which is already tamei as a zav. And now, besides that, there's another emission that comes out of his body, which is a keri. The question is, this substance, this fluid, will it be tamei like other kinds of things that comes out of his body? What's the halacha of different fluids that comes out of the body of a zav? There's two kinds of tumas that if you come in contact with them. One is the actual contact, maga, if you touch it, and another is masa, if you carry it, even without touching it. So now the question is, the keri, this fluid of keri that comes out of the body of the zav, will it be tamei with both of these tumas, with carrying it or touching it? How do you know that this applies by a zav? Because in the pasuk it doesn't say this clearly by a zav regarding keri. Usually the tuma of a keri by a person that's tahir, this emission of keri, only if you touch this emission, then you become tamei, not if you carry it. But how do we know by a zav that it will be tamei both from maga and from masa, if you carry it or if you touch it? So the Braisa says the following kavachaymer. The kavachaymer is uma toher betoher. If when it comes to a fluid that comes out of the body of a person that's toher, which is going to be toher, what it's talking about is the spit that comes out of the person's body. So if it comes out of a person that's toher, so that spit is toher. If you touch it, if you carry it, it's all toher. But tamei, but nevertheless, when this spit comes out of a person that's tamei, it'll be tamei Tame is the lashon of tame betame refers to the tame fluids that comes out of a tame person's body. So that's going to be tame. So in other words, the keri that comes out of the tame person's body is going to be tame. So tame betoy ain't a din sheyeh tame betame. So the tame that comes out of the tahir person's body, so is by a tahir, it's tame. So for sure, the halacha should be that this tame fluid that comes out of the tame person's body, for sure should be tame. Okay, let me just say this Bava Kama again, make sure I get it right. Okay, again, the tahir b'tahir, the first way I said it was right. Tahir b'tahir refers to the spit that comes out of a person's body that's tahir. So by him, it's tahir. Tame b'tame, but nevertheless, this spit that comes out of a person's body that's tame, it will be tame. So tame b'tahir, the keri, which comes out of a person's body that's tahir, this will be tame. For sure, when it comes out of a person's body that's already tame, because he's dissolved, for sure this keri will cause tumah. So basically, the point of this Bava Kama is we're comparing the keri that comes out of a person's body to the spit that comes out of a person's body. If the spit that comes out of this zov's body causes tumah, for sure, the keri that comes out of his body should cause tumah. Now, what says the Gemara, and what do we learn out of here from this Bava Kama? We're learning out from this Bava Kama, bein lemaga and bein lemasa. We're learning out from this Bava Kama both that whether you touch it or whether you carry it, that it becomes tameh. But the question is, how could you learn out both of these details in this Bava Kama? That this keri that comes out of the zov will be tameh whether you touch it or whether you carry it. Why shouldn't we say as follows? Ahani Bava Kama lemaga. That the Bava Kama would teach me that the keri that comes out of the body of the zov will be tameh if you come in contact with it. But ahani dayai, but then we should apply the rule of dayai la fuki masa to say that it does not become tameh if you carry it. Because where are we learning out this Bava Kama from? We're learning out this Bava Kama from the keri that comes out of a person's body that's tahir. And the keri that comes out of the person's body that's tahir you're not going to become tameh if you carry that. You're only tameh if you touch that. Rashi here brings the psukim that you learn it out from. So if your whole Bava Kama is to say that the spit of a person that comes out of a person's body that's tahir is totally tahir, but the keri that comes out of this person's body that's tahir, so over there it makes you tameh if you touch it, and then from that you're coming to learn out regarding the keri that comes out of the person's body that's already azav, that's already tameh, and you're learning out even more than the source. To say that now this keri that comes out of the body of the zav, you'll become tameh whether you touch it, whether you're carrying it. Why do you learn out to here in this Bava Kama more than the source? Shouldn't we apply over here dayai to say that we learn not only regarding the touch that you become tameh? Okay, and now the point that the Gemara is trying to show over here is that this Tana of the Braise does not apply the concept of dayai, even though in this case, if you apply dayai, it will not refute the Bava Kama. So you see that this Tana doesn't hold of the concept of dayai at all. Says the Gemara, now if you'll argue and say that over here, if you apply dayai, it will refute the Bava Kama. Why? Because lamaga lo yitzrich Bava Kama. When it comes to the touch, the fact that if you touch the keri that comes from this zav, for that you don't need any Bava Kama to say that you would become tameh. Why? Because the legara migavra toir. The keri that comes out of a zav, the fact that if you touch it, you're tameh, that's no worse than a person that's not a zav, than a person that's tahir, that if the keri that comes out of its body, if you touch it, you become tameh. So for that, you don't need the Bava Kama. The whole Bava Kama is only needed to say that this keri that comes out of the body, which is a zav, you'll become tameh even if you just carry it without touching it. So therefore, we can't apply the concept of daya here, because then it'll refute the whole point of the Bava Kama. Says the Gemara, but that's not necessarily true, because it's terech. I do need the Bava Kama to say that if you touch the keri of the zav, that you're tameh, because salka daita chamine, I would think to say you can't compare it to the keri that comes out of a person's body that's tahir. What would I think? Because the pasuk says mikre laila, a person that sees an emission at night, ksiv. This is talking about a person that's tahir. Mi shekariyai gairim loy. This keri that comes out of his body, you'll become tameh if you touch it. That's only if this keri that came out of his body caused him to become tameh. Yatzazeh she'en keri gairim loy. Whereas the zav, the keri that comes out of his body, doesn't cause him to make him tameh. He's already tameh from before. Something else, the zav that he was already from before was gairim him to become Tameh. So therefore, I don't even know B'chlal that the keri that comes out of the body of a Zav would B'chlal make you tummy if you even touch it. Kamash Milan. So therefore, I need the Kavachaymer to teach you that even with the touch you become tummy. So therefore, the Gemara says you can still say that the Kavachaymer, the reason why you, when you don't apply dayai over here, so this dayai, in this case, you do need the Kavachaymer for the touch, and therefore over here, if you're going to apply dayai, it's not going to refute the Kavachaymer. Okay, but the Gemara says, no, midiv loy davar acheksiv. Over here, when the Torah says regarding keri, by a person that's tahir, and this keri that comes out of this body, you become tummy. There's the pasuk over there say v'loy davar acher, that when there's someone else that's already tummy for another reason, that over there the keri does not make him tummy. Doesn't say that over there. So over there, we know. In other words, the point the Gemara is saying is that we know that the keri makes a person tummy. Whether he's a person that's tired from before, whether he's a person that's already tamei, the mikri laila, that pasuk says that you become tamei, and there is nothing in the pasuk that says that you should make any distinction between a person that's tired and the person that's already a zav from before. So therefore, the whole entire kavachaymer is needed just for this, to say that he's going to be tamei even with tumas masa, even with just carrying it. And that's the reason why we don't apply the concept of dai over there, to say that the Kavachayim should be only for the touch, because the touch we would know already. That we learn out from any person that's a keri comes out of his body. Over here, the whole Kavachayim is just for the masa, for the carrying, and therefore over here you don't apply dai. That's the conclusion. So it's the same as the opinion of Rav Tarfon. In a case where the Kavachayim is refuted, you do not apply the concept of dai to limit what you learn from the Kavachayim. The Gemara now brings from another case where it seems like there's another Tana that says that we don't apply dayai. Oh, 1 second, before we get to that actually, the Gemara in between, since it brought this up, brings who is the Tana of this Braisa. So the Chiddush of the Tana of this Braisa here is that when you have a keri that comes out of the body of a Zav, that keri, whether you touch it or you carry it, you become tamei. Says the Gemara, Man Tam and the Shamatlei, who is the Tana that holds the Shichva Zera, that this Shichva Zera, which is the keri that comes shal Zav, that comes out of the body of a Zav, metame, you'll become tamei not only by contact, but also b'masa, even just by carrying it. Says the Gemara, Loi Rabbi Eliezer v'loi Rabbi Yeshua. Seems to be not like any Tana that we know of, not Rabbi Eliezer that spoke about this, and not Rabbi Yeshua either. The Tanan, or the Tanya, we learn in the Braisa, Shichva Zera shel Zav, this Shichva Zera that comes out of the body of a Zav, Metame b'maga, if you touch it, you become Tommy, but Vei Metame b'masa. It's not, you don't become Tommy if it's carried. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, that's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Rabbi Yeshua says, Af Metame b'masa. No, you do become Tommy, even if you carry it. Why is that though? He gives a specific reason. Because a person that is a Zav, that has that type of emission of a Zav, even when he has now this emission of the keri, it's impossible that the emission of the keri does not have some remnants of the emission of Ziva, and therefore this keri will be metame both b'maga b'masa like the emission of the Ziva. So the Gemara says, what do you see here? Why does Rabbi Shua say that if you touch this keri, or even if you carry it, both, you become tamei? Ella, the reason he gives is because it's impossible that there is no remnant of this emission of ziva. But if not for this, the keri that comes from the body of the zav would not be metame both b'maga and b'masa, with touch or carrying. Ella says the Gemara, Hi Tanahu. The Tana of this Braisa we quoted before is the Tana of this Mishnah here. The Tanan, there's a Mishnah that says, L'mayla mihen, a higher level of Tumah than what was mentioned before. So Rashi brings, this is a Mishnah Masechta Kalim that goes through different levels of sources of Tumah. It speaks there about the Tumah of Sheretz, and then Shechva Zera, and then Tumei Meis. But then it says, even higher Tumah than this is Zoivai Shal Zav, is the flow of Ziva that comes out of a Zav, or V'roikai, his spittle, or V'shichva Zara, which is keri, or Meme Raglov is urine, or V'dama Nida, or the blood of a Nida, Metamin, all of these will cause Tumah Bein B'maga, whether you touch this fluid, or Bein B'masa, or whether you carry it. So here you see clearly, he says the Shichva Zara, which is the keri that comes out of the body of a Zav, you become Tumah whether you carry or whether you touch. That's the Tana that we brought before. But the Gemara asks on this, how do you know that this is the Tana? V'dilma hocha nami, maybe here, his reasoning regarding the shichva zera that comes out of his body, that you become tummy, whether you touch or carry, lefi, maybe it follows what Rabbi Eliezer said before. Lefi she'i efshe b'loy tzchzuche ziva. The reason is because the shichva zera that comes out must have a remnant of the ziva as well. Says the Gemara, no, that can't be what this Mishnah is saying here, because in Cain, lisne gabi zoivai. When he mentions Shichva Zera, it should be mentioned right when it says Zoiv, Zoivai, and then there it should say right away Shichva Zera as well. Why does it say it? Why does it mention the Shichva Zera of the Zov that it's Tomei? It mentions it together with the Roik, together with the spittle of the Shichva of the Zov, that is. The answer is Mishum Da'asimi Raikai, because we learn it with the Kal V'chaimer from the spit of the Zav. This is the Kal V'chaimer that the Gemara brought before. So it's that Kal V'chaimer that teaches me that both the Mag and the Masa is going to be Tameh. Okay, that's the conclusion of this point. Again, brought up over here regarding the Dayai, that over there we don't apply Dayai because then it will refute the Kal V'chaimer. Now the Gemara brings, as I mentioned, another case where the question is, do you apply this concept of Dayai in a case where it's not going to refute the Kal V'chaimer, but still the question is, again, here the Gemara is going to try to prove that there's a Tana that holds that we never apply the concept of Dayai. So Rav Achim asks Ravina, but v'hai Tana, here you have the following Tana, Loi Dorish Dayai, he does not apply the concept of Dayai, even though you should apply Dayai because it won't refute the Kal V'chaimer. Okay, so here this is another story also about Tumah, but this is another case. The Tanya, the Braisa says as follows: Mapotz b'meis b'nayin. How do I know that a mat, this is a reed mat, how do I know that the Tumah of meis will be metamet? Now the reason why you need a special source for this is, so Rashi brings in the pasuk where it speaks about the Tumah of meis, it talks about a keli. Talks about, let's say, a garment or any kind of a keli. Now, this reed mat is basically reeds that are, it's called pshute kliyet. It's like something which is not a proper keli. So therefore, the tumah of maize would not apply to it. So therefore, you need a special Kal V'chaimer to learn out that the tumah of maize does apply even for this mat as well. So the Braisa says, V'dinu, I can learn it with a Kal V'chaimer. If it comes to little earthenware jugs, shetahayrim b'zav, so they are tahar by a zav. So Rashi goes through all the details here. A zav cannot be metame, these little earthenware jugs, and the reason is because an earthenware jug, if you see the pictures of these earthenware jugs, they have a very, very narrow opening, and it's impossible to stick a finger inside. So if you can't stick your finger inside, it cannot become tameh. Because the halacha by an earthenware jug is, it only becomes tameh from the inside. But over here, you can't stick your finger inside. And also, Rashi says, it's usually there's a tumah by a zav, which is called tumas medris. When you sit on it, over here, it's not made to sit on. It's not made for that, so it doesn't become tameh. And therefore, even when he touches it, he pushes it from the outside, it doesn't become tameh either. So the point is, these little jugs do not become tameh by a zav. But, metame b'meis. But if it's in the oil of a mace, if these little jugs are in a tent where there's a mace there, it does become tameh. So mapot shemetame b'zav. So if when it comes to this reed mat, a zav will make it tameh because this reed mat is fit for lying on it. It's made to lie down on it. So therefore, if a zav lies down on it, he will make it tameh. Most definitely, it should become tameh by the tumah of a mace. That's the Kal V'chaimer. Now, here the Gemara will now explain, we're learning out over here in this Kal V'chaimer more than the tumah is even in the source. Why is that? There's a big difference between the tumah of a mace and the tumah of a zav. By the tumah of a zav, the tumah lasts 1 day. By the tumah of a mace, the tumah lasts for 7 days. So says the Gemara, the Kamaisila, and we're learning out from this Kal V'chaimer to say that this mat becomes tameh by a mace, Bein l'tumah seref, to say that it becomes tameh until the evening, which is like it is by a zav, the source from where we're learning out from. But even more so, bein l'tumah shiva, we're learning out to say that it would become even more tameh than the source. For 7 days it would be tameh. Va'amai, why are we learning out so far? Eime, why should I not say ahani Kal V'chaimer l'tumah seref? That I use the Kal V'chaimer to say that this reed mat becomes tameh like the zav until the evening. But then I should apply daya. Va'ahani daya. Then I should apply daya to say la'afuke tumah shiva, that it doesn't become tameh for 7 days. It only becomes tameh for 1 day. So this the Gemara says, Omar lei kvar roma ne'alei Rav Nachman bar Zechariah what's this? The Reish Nunav is another Rav Nechumi. That is Rav Nechumi bar Zachariah. He asked this question la Abaye. He asked Abaye this question. V'amalei Abaye, and Abaye answered him that really you're supposed to be guided in this brayse differently. When we're talking here about this reed mat and we're making this kal v'chaimer, the kal v'chaimer is not regarding tumas meis. The kal v'chaimer is regarding the tumah of a sheretz. Tane mimapots b'sheretz ma'isila. We're learning out of here the kal v'chaimer for this mat for the tumah of a sheretz, when you have a crawling thing that causes tumah. And Bava Kama, this is what the brayse says. Mapats b'sheretz minayin. How do I know that this mat becomes tummy from a sheretz? And v'dinu, and the brayse says, I'll learn it with the following kal v'chaimer. Uma pachin ketanim. If when it comes to these little jugs, shetahayidim b'zav, they are torah. A zav can't make it tummy. But nevertheless, metamin b'sheretz, a sheretz could make these jugs tummy because a sheretz is small enough to crawl inside these little jugs. Mapat shemitame b'zav. A mapat, a mat that becomes tummy if a zav lies in it, and it then she hate tummy b'sheretz. Most definitely, the tumah of sheretz, if a sheretz goes in it, it should make it tummy. That is the kal v'chaimer that it's saying over here. Now, in this kal v'chaimer, you're not learning out anything more than the source, because both the tumah of sheretz and the tumah of zav is just until the night. So this is the kal v'chaimer that the brayse said. Now, after we know this kal v'chaimer, then the brayse goes on to say, Ela mapots b'meis minayin. So for the sheretz, we have a kal v'chaimer. But now, from where do I know that a mat becomes tameh? From a tumas meis as well. And at that, the brayse continues to say, we don't learn it from a kal v'chaimer. We learn it out from the gzeira shava. Nema beged v'or b'sheretz. The Torah uses the expression that a garment or the hide that became tummy by a sheretz is tummy, and v'nema beged v'or b'meis, and it uses the same two words of beged v'or regarding the tumah of a meis. And I compare them and say ma beged v'or hami b'sheretz, just like by the beged and the or that says by sheretz. What's the halacha there? Ma patz tummy by a mat will become tummy, as we just learned out from the kal v'chaimer from Azav. Av beged va'or almost b'meis. Similar, the beged va'or, the expression of beged and or that the Torah says regarding a meis, mapatz tameh by. So too the mat will become tummy. That's the kal v'chaimer that we're learning out over here. So we're learning out the kal v'chaimer. It's not a kal v'chaimer. This is a gzeira shava. We're learning out a gzeira shava to compare the halacha that there is by a sheretz to the halacha that there is by a meis, that the mat will become tummy. Okay, so now the Gemara explains this gzeira shava. Mufna, the Gemara asks, are the words that we use for this gzeira shava, are they available? Are they extra words to be used for this gzeira shava? And the Gemara explains why they have to be extra. The iloi mufna, because if they're not extra words, so then ikele mifrech, I could refute this gzeira shava. The rule is a gzeira shava cannot be refuted. It's not like a kal v'chaimer that could be refuted, but that's only if the words used in the kal v'chaimer are extra. So the Gemara explains, because otherwise, how could I refute this gzeira shava? I'll tell you as follows: you can't learn from sheretz to tmei meis. Why not? Mal sheretz. There's a stringency that you find by a sheretz that causes tumah. Shekei mitame bekardasha. It causes tumah even if there's a sheretz that's as small as a lentil. Tumah b'meis. Whereas when it comes to from the body of a meis that causes tumah, shei mitame bekardasha. It doesn't cause tumah when it's such a tiny piece like a lentil. Ela bekazayis. It has to be larger. It has to be at least a kazayis. So therefore, I have this refutation. So the Gemara says, "Lie, yes, you're right. Afnuye mufna, that is. The words beged v'oir that it says by the sheretz are extra words. Why? Mechti, let's see. Sheretz is skish l'shichva zera. Sheretz, the tumah of a sheretz, is compared to the tumah of shichva zera. Because it says in the same pasuk, oy isha sheteitze v'goymer, and then right afterwards it says v'somach lei oy isha sheyiga b'chol sheretz. So it says these two things together. Uksev bei b'shichva zera, and regarding shichva zera, the pasuk already says it's v'chol beged v'chol oir ashiyal of shichva zera, that it's going to be tummy. So over there, by shichva zera, the Torah already says that a beged and a oir is tummy. So beged v'oir, the cost of rachmana b'sheretz lamali. So therefore, the beged and oir that it says by sheretz is extra. I would already know it from comparing it to the beged and oir that it says by shichva zera. So shma min olaf nuye. So the word of beged v'oir that it says by sheretz is extra for the gzeira shava. So I can't refute this gzeira shava. The Gemara goes on to ask, Vakati, I can still ask you, Mufne mitzad echadu. You proved to me that every gzeira shava has two sides to the gzeira shava. The word beged v'or that it says by sheretz, and the word beged v'or that it says by tmei meis. You showed me that the word beged v'or by sheretz, those the words are extra. But who says the words by Tame or by Tmei Meis that is extra? So Mahani Chilaman Damar. So this would be understood according to the opinion that says Mufna Mitzad Echad. When you have the Gzeira Shava and the words used are extra in one side of the Gzeira Shava. Lemeidin, I learned the Gzeira Shava ve'eim yeshivin. And you can't refute this Gzeira Shava. So Shaper. So I understand that over here you can't use the refutation mentioned before. But there's another opinion that says that if only one side of the Gzeira Shava is extra, you can learn out the Gzeira Shava, but you could still refute it. What are you going to say according to that opinion? Answers the Gemara, the Meis Nami Afnuya Mufne. The words of Beged and Ur that it says by Meis are also extra words because it's in the same place you can learn it out already. Mechti, let's see, Meis Iskish l'Shichva Zera. In that same pasuk, it says the Tumah of Meis compared to Shichva Zera. Dichsiv, because in the same pasuk that we quoted before, it says V'hanegeya b'Meis, that is B'chol Tmei Nefesh, that is Oish Ish Asher Teitzeh Mimenu V'Goymer. And over there, Uksiv Bei b'Shichva Zera, and it says already regarding Shichva Zera, V'chol Beged, V'chol Oir Ashiyah Ola Shichva Zera, that you become tummy, whether it's a garment, whether it's a oir. Beged V'oir, the Kasav Rachmana B'Meis Lamali. Why does the Torah have to write these extra words of Beged and oir? Shmam Yino Lafnuye. So I clearly see that it's extra. So therefore, this is extra on both sides. It's extra, but both the words Beged V'Or by Meis and the words Beged V'Or that it says by Sheretz are both extra, and therefore I can compare them to each other to say that the Tumah applies by both of them. Okay, so therefore we have this Gzeira Shava, and we also have a Hekish that we learn out from Meis to Sheretz to say that the Beged and the Or are going to be Tomei by both of them. But the Gemara now asks, so Haniche Lamanda Amar, this is all going to be understood according to the opinion that says Doin Mina, that when you learn out a Gzeira Shava, I learn out from it, from whatever source you're learning out. And V'oiki Ba'asra, but then when I apply back that Gzeira Shava to the place that you're learning it out to, I apply it back to the place where it is, and the halacha is going to be according to the place where it is. So over here, if you're comparing Tmei Meis to Sheretz, so then you're learning out the Tumah from Sheretz, but then you apply it back to Tmei Meis, and by Sheretz the Tumah is only until at night, Tumah's Erev, but when you apply it back to Tmei Meis, you apply back that the Tumah over there is going to be for 7 days. So then we could understand that we could say over here the same thing. Now, the pshat of what the Gemara is saying over here could be referring to 2 points that the Gemara said before. Either it could be referring to the Gzeira Shava that we learn out regarding the Tumah of the mat, that we're learning out the Gzeira Shava from Beged and Ur to say that the mat is Tomei by Sheretz, and it's Tomei by Tmei Meis as well. So the Gemara is now saying, okay, you have a Hekish, it's not just a Kal V'chaimer, but according to the opinion that says that when you make a Hekish, you apply it back to the halacha here by Tmei Meis to say that it's Tomei 7 days, so that's understood. Or regarding the Gzeira Shava that the Gemara said, not the Gzeira Shava, regarding the Hekish the Gemara said. The Gemara's Hekish was regarding Beged and Ur, that the Beged and Ur is extra because you learn it out from Shichva Zera. So if you apply it back from Shichva Zera to Tmei Meis to say that it would be Tomei 7 days, so that's understood. But there's another opinion that says, Doin Mina, when I learn out the Gzeira Shava or a Hekish from a source, but umina, I have to apply all the details from there. So if so, ma'yikalamema, what are you going to say? If you're learning out the Gzeira Shava for the mat to be Tomei, it can't be Tomei more than one night. Or if I'm learning out from Beged and Ur, I'm comparing the Beged and Ur from Shichva Zera to Tmei Meis, you can't learn out more than the Tumah of one night. How do we know to compare that by Tmei Meis? It would be Tomei for 7 days. So the Gemara says, Omar Rave says, the pasuk says, V'chibastem b'gdeichem b'yoyim hashvi. Regarding Tmei Meis, you have to wash your garments 7 days, and what we learn from here is kol tumis shatem mitamim b'meis. Anytime there's a tumah of meis, lo yiyeh pchusim mishiva. There's no tumah that's less than 7 days. So from here you learn out that once you do apply the tumah to meis, you can't say that it's only for tumas erev. It's going to be for 7 days. So therefore the hekish works and the Gzeira Shava works as well. Okay, Taisus over here explains, but the original Kal V'chaimer that we tried to say, you cannot learn from this drash over here from V'chibastem b'gdeichem. Okay, this is the conclusion of this Gemara that discusses this inyan of Daye. Machlekes whether you apply Daye by Kal V'chaimer or not.